Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. We're super excited to talk about research today. And I will be joined by Tong, who is one of our research scientists who's focused on NLP, who'll be able to give us some insight into the day-to-day of a researcher and just kind of, what he's working on right now. So just to give a quick introduction, I'm Carlos. I am a talent advisor at Salesforce. I support the research group. So anything related to PhD, AI, professor, academic collaborations, conferences, anything like that, it falls under our recruiting group. And then just quickly want to go over the agenda. So again, I will bring on Tong, who will give a quick introduction into his background, how he got into Salesforce research, and what he's currently, kind of focused on. And then we'll go over the roles that we hire for. And then from there, we will talk about the interview process, share some insights, some tips on how to go about doing well and preparing for those. And then just wrapping up with the recruiting timeline. So just to bring Tong on, sorry. So just to talk over very quickly about Salesforce AI research roles, we hire for research scientists. So research scientists, generally speaking, are primarily focused on core research. They do publish papers. That's one of their main objectives. But in the end, again, like we do have research direction that they must be pursuing. We also hire for applied scientists. So applied scientists, they're more focused on applied research. So what that means is not only do they do the initial experimentation, but they also do the implementation and they productionize the algorithm into like Salesforce products. And then we also hire for interns. So, we're really excited to talk about the research intern roles. We are currently hiring now, and our posting is live. So if you want some more insights, again, you can look at this slide here and get a high level overview on the qualifications and just kind of like the day to day of these positions. So I did want to bring Tong on really quickly. I want him to give us a quick introduction, give us a quick overview on his focus, and just go from there. Hi, Tong.
Hey, Carlos. Thanks for introducing. So I'm a research scientist at Salesforce AI. I mainly work on NLP, currently on MT, machine translation, both for the localization project and also another research project that we're about to take to ACI.
Awesome, awesome. And can you just give us a high level on what your day-to-day looks like, Tong, as a research scientist at Salesforce AI Research?
Yeah, sure. I get asked a lot during interviews about this question. So we mainly spend like 50% of the time doing research and another 50% doing product. That said, there are researchers who are fully focused on moonshot projects, such as Progen, if you've heard about it. It's using language models to predict protein sequences. Those researchers focus like entirely on research. But for us, although it sounds like we're splitting our time half and half, but if you got, I'm actually really good at this. So if you got overlap between research and product, let's say there is the 25% of overlap between your research and product, you actually got 75% of the time working on research and 5% of the time working on products. I know it adds up over 1.0, but that's what you can quote unquote manipulate. My other responsibility include like going to conferences and contribute to other projects. This is like super important. The least that you can do is to provide feedback to other projects during meetings and during small focused groups, and also working with interns and other groups and researchers. Sometimes those researchers are gonna come from academia, so there is a very broad collaborations, and also participating in recruiting events like this. I actually really like this because you get to know your future colleague beforehand and pick your favorite actually I don't get to pick, but get to meet your favorites.
Yeah.
And for interns, because I've also been an intern at Salesforce before and got converted. So usually your role is to entirely focus on research, and you get to choose your own topic. Usually, hopefully, in 3 months, it will lead to a publication, and that's how to get your boss attention. Yeah, that's basically my day to day.
Yeah, awesome, awesome. Yeah, and again, everyone, Tong did start with us as an intern. He did extremely well, published, I believe he published 2 papers at internship, Tong.
I just
It was just one, but I mean,
yeah.
now you're just, killing it, and you're doing super well with your research direction. So Tom gave us a high level over, his day to day and his experience as an intern as well. I quickly want to shift gears into the interview process. So very quickly, oh, sorry, I want to talk about the recruiting timeline. So we are in the midst of it. So what that means is we are currently live. So we are hiring for research scientists, applied scientists, um, and research interns. So our main focus right now is for research interns. We do have a handful of roles, and the research focus for those are, anything AI related. So we have a group focus on theory, machine learning theory. Have another group focus on computer vision, natural language processing, reinforcement learning. There's such a wide variety of groups that are focused on various different topics, that we are open to hearing about your focus area and how it can contribute to the research direction for Salesforce AI research. So as you can see, again, the timelines are shared here. We have September to November is when the research intern, again, this is specific for research interns, goes live. So we post it, and we currently are conducting interviews, working closely with a lot of the hiring managers. November, December, so when things start winding down. So we are starting to wrap up the recruiting events, excuse me. And then January through March is, again, we do hire on a rolling basis. So as long as we have open roles, we will continue hiring. And one of the questions we do get is start date, right? Generally speaking, we do hire for the summer months, but we are hiring, across the board. So we have had interns who start in February or November, December. Just really depends on your schedule, your advisor, and your university, approving that timeline. So I want to quickly talk about the interview process itself. So again, we hire for 3 main roles, right? As you can see, we have the research scientist, the applied scientist, and the research intern. So diving in really quickly to the research scientist position, this is, again, think of it more academic. The reason I say this is one of the main objectives, as Tong mentioned, is publishing papers, although they do have a little bit of applied work. It just really depends on the project that they're working on. But for the interview process itself, the first round is a technical discussion with one of the researchers. What that means is you dive into machine learning concepts, theories, and they want to understand how granular you can get and how in depth knowledge you have about these topics and fundamentals. If the feedback is positive, we move forward with the onsite. So the onsite is pretty straightforward, I'd say. I mean, I personally haven't gone through it, so maybe it's not, it's not like that. But we do have a presentation. The presentation is the candidate decides on what they want to speak to. So usually they decide to speak on their dissertation or a recent paper that was published at one of the conferences, and then we go ahead and have another technical discussion. We have a machine learning algorithm design interview. For this one, think of it more of like, how would you solve a potential novel problem in the real world? So some general, like a very basic example I have is based on a user's recent, browse history. How would you create an algorithm that will recommend items for them to purchase, right? So things like that. Think of it like in the real world, and how would you create an algorithm, design it that would be fully functioning. Um, you will also have another technical discussion similar to that first round. And then lastly, a hiring manager interview. So the hiring manager interview is more of a mutual discussion to make sure that firstly the team is a fit for your background and that you're a fit for the team as well. So that's for research scientists. Applied scientists is fairly similar, but they are a little bit more, they do test a little bit more on the technical skills, more specifically the coding interview, coding challenges. So the first one is very similar. You dive into, technical discussion into machine learning concepts, fundamentals and theories. And then the on-site, you do have two coding interviews. You have a design round, machine learning design round. You have a hiring manager interview, and then you also have another technical discussion. So the difference here between the two is that the research scientist has a presentation and the applied scientist does not. And then lastly, for research intern, this one is fairly straightforward. And I want to get a little bit, I want to sell a little bit the research intern role, just because I think it's the best way to go about, breaking into the research group. So some teams decide to do a hack rank. For those not familiar, the hack rank is a coding challenge, self-paced. You can take it whenever you want. You get asked two questions. It's out of 100 points. As long as you score more of higher than a 70, we'll move you forward to the next round. The next round is another, again, technical discussion. So we kind of keep coming back to this. We want to make sure that those joining the group have deep fundamental knowledge, can get granular, and more importantly, can run independent research. That's one of the biggest criteria that the team is looking for. And then the final round is a hiring manager discussion. So again, that's the mutual fit, right? We want to make sure that the project that you're working on can help with your PhD focus and dissertation, and make sure your advisor is on board with that. And at the same time, that you can bring your experience to the group's research efforts. So I keep touching on the research internship because I think it's the best way to go about breaking into the research organization as a full-time researcher. Again, we brought Tong on because he has that experience. You come in, you do a 12-week internship, you publish a paper, you do well enough that you may potentially be extended. And what that means is you're wrapping up your interview, your research is going so well that you're on the cusp of publishing a paper or submitting a paper to a conference, and we need you to stay on board to continue with experimentation or rebuttals or whatever that might be, right? And then if again continues going well, we get the appropriate headcount, then the likelihood of conversion is very high. So what that means is essentially we get approvals from finance, a couple other back end things that recruiters deal with, and we just move forward to an offer. So you have to you get to skip the interview process of the presentation, the 5 hours that you spend with the team. So that's that. And then I wanted to kind of wrap up the interview process and dive into the just kind of the next. I'm sure. Excuse me. I'm sure that everyone has a lot of questions. I want to bring Tong back just to make sure that we have some support. We have someone that can come in and share some additional insight. But Tong, actually, do you mind sharing very quickly? You're actually one of our core interviewers. Do you mind sharing a little bit about your firsthand experience interviewing both full-timers and interns, and what you expect, and any tips that you can provide them?
Yes. Actually, before that, I would like to comment on one of the things that Carl just said. He's mentioned that for internship, we have a very high conversion rate to full-time. So just for clarification, it's not because we just blindly convert anybody to full-time. It's usually the case that your colleagues, your internship colleagues, are super good. They all have a strong publication record, and they're also very smart and diligent. So they usually work toward a publication. So based on my experience, I observed like almost more than half of the interns have published a paper or about to publish a paper at the end of their internship. It's not like if you don't hit your boss in the face, you get converted. So that brings up to my first point about interview as a intern. So you're about to apply for an intern. Usually you will be asked the same questions that you will be asked as a full time. But it's totally worth it. I had a very nice experience. I had shared my discussions with insightful colleagues, like super insightful. And besides, we got a very flat management structure. So a flat management structure means this is my true experience. I used to discuss it with a person, with a researcher, which is super insightful, and it's like I almost thought he was another intern from the company, and it turned out it was my boss's boss. So that's you will feel that the culture is very good, and for sharing the perspective of an interviewer, because I've been staying on the other side of the screen. So what we're looking for is like we want to discuss about your research and obviously your past experience, mostly the projects you're most proud of or the one you're most struggled with. We also want to brainstorm with you so about new ideas. So along the way, we're gonna raise questions, not just sit down there and listen to you. If we find that we can chime in for a new idea, we will just talk to you and ask about your opinion. Sometimes that recent reaction like, you just sit down here for 10 minutes and hear my projects and you think you got an idea. I've worked on this for like 3 years and I've got a perfect idea and I can show you why you're an idiot. Oh, we love that look, when they're talking about research very confidently. But sometimes, that actually lead to an actual publication. I've experienced that. So based on interview brainstorming. And another suggestion about interviewing is that you really know what you're talking about, because we're going to ask follow-up questions. For example, if you think, so this one, we cannot back propagate the gradients, and so we chose, Gumbel Softmax, or we chose RL, and then we may ask you about fundamental knowledge, such as, what is Gumbel Softmax? Could you explain in detail? And some people just stopped right away and say, oh, I don't know. So really know that every detail of what you do and what you want to suggest. And do think about the future. And it is impossible for researchers who have done who have done a lot of research and not thinking about the most exciting field that they want to go in and want to change. So that's what we're looking for and probably will talk about. So I'll talk about some negative advice, quote unquote negative advice, things to avoid basically. So I've seen interviewees reading behind the screen. It's so obvious. Don't do that. And feel free to mention our work. So we've published a lot of paper, we as a huge group, but you don't need to mention it when it's not necessary. Don't intentionally just, I have to mention it to mention it. You don't need to do that. It doesn't increase your score. And sometimes people, since they have seen so many code questions, maybe we just happen to choose one that they have seen. Please do tell us rather than finishing our 2 coding questions in 3 seconds. We're gonna pose you with more. Trust me. So yeah, that's basically what I want to share. If there are like high-level points that I have missed, there could be. Carlos, please remind me. Thanks.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think you covered it. Again, Tong is one of our superstar interviewers. He's always, he's gotten some of the best feedback from some of our candidates. So he knows what he knows what he's talking about. But thank you so much, Tong, for sharing all that. So we quickly wanted to shift. We have 8 minutes left we wanted to take on some questions from the audience. So feel free to share some of your questions on LinkedIn. Um, to start, we'll review a couple FAQs. Actually, it looks like we are getting a couple questions now. So one of the first ones is, will there be any spring 2022 internships? Yes, we're currently hiring actively. And the follow-up question, can you share a link where we can apply for those roles? So we'll share a link, but if you want to check out the research website, you can go to Einstein.ai, and there's a career tab where you can look at all the open roles that we have. But again, we can share that on LinkedIn. Another question we have gotten: how do you pick the research project you work on? Tom, do you want to take this one?
Yeah, sure. So usually you work with your manager to pick your research project. Here I'm talking about full time. I'll cover intern a little bit later. So mainly you have a high level topic such as you're working in a vision group, you're working in a conversational AI group. So usually you pick under this subcategory, and the if you were talking about research projects, it's very flexible. And if we're talking about product, sometimes you're assigned a product to work on. And you can still kind of negotiate about what kind of project you're assigned to, so that is more aligned with your research one. So that's usually a good thing. Yeah. And for interns, you basically have full decision on yourself. Just as long as you don't work on, say, mechanical chemistry during our internship, I think it's fine. And usually, we three sides collectively reach an agreement on what project to work on. Your professor back in academia, you yourself, and also your manager.
Awesome, Tom. Thank you so much. And we actually got another follow-up question. Are researchers able to participate in multiple projects? What about collaborating with academic institutions? I'll let you take that one on as well, just because, I'm
Cool.
obviously not
Uh,
involved.
Obviously, we collaborate with a lot of other institutions, and we also give grants. Each year I believe there are five super excellent groups. So their students are going to come to us and collaborate with us on projects. And sometimes it is another company that have special needs about our product, or some of our Salesforce customer that happen a lot. What was the first half of the question? Sorry.
Yeah, it was do you, are researchers able to participate in multiple projects?
Oh yeah. So usually the structure is like this. You got your main project. That you have to be the lead author. You have to do most of the work, no doubt, unless you're a manager. The other parts are all participating in other projects. Some projects need certain skill of you, even data crawling. I sometimes get asked for data crawling. So you participate, make a concrete contribution, not just sitting there discuss and hope that hopefully your name can appear in their paper. Not like that. So you basically participate in a lot of non-major projects of yours, and sometimes it is also about interns. Two researchers get one intern. I've seen those scenarios happen. Hopefully that answers.
Yeah, definitely did. So we can take two more questions. One of them is, do you need a PhD to join the Salesforce AI research group? And I can put it pretty simply, no. Tom, do you want to provide some insight on why?
Yeah, there. Oh, so NLP or machine learning in general is a very practical field. So if you got equivalent experience, we usually ignore your what degree you've got and look at your publications. If you got a strong publication record, even if you're a master, you can still get accepted.
Awesome. Yeah, as Tom mentioned again, as long as you have a strong publication record and you can contribute independently to research, that's really all the team is looking for. So no PhD necessary. It's a nice to have, not a must have. One of the last questions: how big is the team? So our team is it's split between Singapore and Palo Alto. Generally speaking, Tom, do you want to dive into like it's kind of the breakdown of the NLP org, the computer vision org, and just etc.
Oh, I see. You mean the subgroups in our big team?
Exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So there are, first of all, the Moonshot team. They're working on, quote unquote romantic projects, very long looking forward. And also the vision group, the NLP group. NLP group is like I believe the largest one in our big team. It contains conversational AI, Q&A. Those are all very big. Q&A including QG, and also what I'm working on, MT. So we're serving multiple customers while as having our own research. And there's not enough time to mention all of the subdivisions. So yeah, so I'll just give those examples.
Yeah, awesome. Looks like we got two last minute questions. One of them is, do you have to be a student to be an intern? Yes, you have to be registered to return to the university after internship, or else you are not eligible. So unfortunately, since you graduated last year, you wouldn't qualify as an intern, so you'd have to be considered full-time roles. Another question we got was, what about those who don't have experience in ML but had just only one academic course while pursuing MS in computer science? That's a tough one. Tong, what do you think on that question?
So I think the question asks about if I don't have a lot of publications, what do I do? First advice is obvious: is keep doing research. And second of all, I don't know if intern includes a non-researcher role, like applying sciences role. Is there an internship, Carlos?
Yeah, we have a couple groups are open to more applied researchers, but generally speaking, a lot of them want to publish papers with interns just to give them that experience and that real world exposure and the industry, just so they get again like it's a hands-on experience in the industry.
Thanks. Another thing I would like to mention is that it's not about number; it's about significance. So I understand that the whole academia is focusing on incrementalist. We're trying to do the next BERT and even do the next Roberta. I change one layer and I call myself another work. So those are very incremental. What we look for is what you did in your work, even if it's just one publication. We'll ask about it and see what you've learned, what you can contribute to the academia or the industry in general. So yeah, don't lose face if it's not a huge number.
Awesome. Thank you, Tong. The last question, are you also hiring full stack software developers? We very rarely hire for them. We actually had one opening. I've been at Salesforce for 3 years and we had one opening in those 3 years. It's just, again, primarily focused on research. So unfortunately, not at this time. But again, thank you so much for joining us today. I do want to promote Success from Any School event that is coming up on October 6th. So we'll be featuring additional information on research internships for PhD grads. And again, it's at 12 p.m. Pacific time. So the event will offer you an awesome opportunity to meet Salesforce senior leadership, like our keynote speaker, Jessica Ross, SVP Office of Transformation. You'll also be able to, again, dive deeper, speak to us one-on-one. We'll have a live DJ. It's going to be a huge, huge event. So we're really excited to be hosting it. Make sure you register. We'll definitely, share more information on that. And again, we want to emphasize that we'll be honoring Breast Cancer Awareness Month. So again, we really hope to see you there. Feel free to scan the QR code and register for the event, or click on the link that we'll drop in the stream's chat. We can't wait to see you October 6th. But again, thank you again for joining us. We're excited to share more about research, and we'll see you October 6th at 12 p.m. Pacific time. Thank you so much, Tom.